Hello and welcome to the Vine Life Podcast. I'm Tony Clark, your host, and today I have the honor of having Rex Paul Schnelle on the program. And Rex is a multi-instrumentalist with a certain guitar virtuosity, who is also a singer-songwriter and also a record producer. Now, over Rex's career, he has made recordings with famous folks like Randy Bachman of Bachman Turner Overdrive, Jack Blades of Night Ranger, and Damn Yankees fame. Also, John Bon Jovi, Merle Haggard, Brooks and Dunn, Olivia Newton-John, Jim Brickman, Tim McGraw, Jerry Reed, Waylon Jennings, and a host of Hall of Fame writers and performers. And that's a mouthful, but Rex, I want to thank you so much for being on the program.
Thanks for having me, Tony. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, and I just got that's a wide variety of famous individuals there. Now, if it's right off the bat, can you think of Can you think of a story from one of these famous individuals that sticks out to you? You think back in your producer or your playing days when you worked on their albums. Well, what sticks out to you with one of those guys?
Yeah, the way it is, there's a certain kind of caveat. I worked with Sony Music Publishing for about 20 years or 25 years, and so I would do demos with all of these people. So most of these were demos; they weren't albums. Some of them ended up on some of these artists. They ended up on records. So I just worked with writers that would come to town and write with Sony writers, which a lot of these guys would. The John Bon Jovi situation was I was working with an artist named Allison Taylor, and we did a show in Nashville, just her and I, an acoustic show, and John came to the show and kind of arranged, was going to write with Allison, and then the next day they said, hey, we wrote a song, we're going to be in the studio, so we went to House of David. And that's where that was. That's about 1990 or 1991. The other ones at Sony's studio, I just was fortunate to, from Olivia Newton-John to, Merle Haggard was one day they were giving him a car at Sony as a reward for, selling so many songs. I think that's what it was. Anyway, they're going to do interviews. And so the studio was decked out to do the interview. And we just kind of did a little demo while he was there. And, just these incredible, and then the Everly Brothers was probably the most shining example that I did a demo with them. Same thing. Jamie O'Hara was a writer that sounded a lot like them vocally and wrote really kind of esoterically, very much like them. And he wrote with them. So they came to the studio at one time at Sony and did a demo there. And oh gosh, Jessica Simpson to Olivia Newton-John she was exciting. Don Cook was working with her. Don was the head of Sony at the time. And so I just had, an amazing run of a lot of demos. Some of the stuff ended up, I would work with a lot of up and coming writers, Blake Shelton, Dierks Bentley, Miranda Lambert, all these people were young and looking for their record deal. So I would do the demo that would get the record deal or whatever it would be. So That's kind of the caveat there. And at the same time, I was an artist. I was also playing as a session guy, at one time, 5 days a week, just rolling in my guitars and amps and doing sessions. And so it's been I've been blessed. I've been really blessed to be able to do this. So.
Wow. That's I would assume that aspiring musicians would love to just work with one of those individuals, but you've got a big catalog of individuals that you've worked with. So that seems like a blessing.
Yeah, it's been a crazy ride, and it's you tell the story or you don't tell the story because it sounds like what you worked with all, and it's like, well, they were demos, so they weren't records, although some of them turned out kind of to be or whatever, and so. It's like roll out the pictures and, there it is. And I count myself really, really fortunate to be able to do that. And what that has afforded me on this side of respect of working with other peers, so.
Well, listening to your music, you're just right up there as well with your talent and singing and stuff. So I'm totally blown away.
Thanks.
So, Rex, I first heard of your music through the Illumination album with the famous Phil Keaggy.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank you for all of this, new music that I get to listen to now. And I've just kind of discovered you because I started listening to Phil Keaggy again, I guess in the past year.
Okay.
And after about a 10-year layoff, but I I was thinking to myself, why have I missed out on this guy for so many years? But I'm digging back into it, and you were the guy with him on this Illumination album. Can you tell me how did you get to work with Phil Keaggy on this album?
Well, I had worked with Phil before. In 2005, he played on my Hero Shuffle record. And that was a meeting, went to a birthday party, and him and Bernadette were there, and met him and told him my story. And we had met before in Christian circles, like studio stuff. And I'd done a performance where he was on the stage or whatever. But so we reconnected, and then he played on that record, and he was gracious. He said, "Hey, let's write together." So we kind of started hanging out. So we had played on that record, and then I'd played on All at Once record. We kind of tried to start writing together. We wrote a song called "Love the Way You Love Me" that's on the All at Once record, which is the one right before the Illumination record, and it turned out really, really good. We liked the way it sounded, and that just instigated just talking about working together. And so I was over at his house one day, and he pulled out an old iPod, with the little screen on it. He says, "You got to hear this." He said, "This is a reel-to-reel recording of a song idea I had that's only about 20 seconds long." And then the tape got eat up, but I made a recording of it. So he played this chord progression and was kind of, singing in the background. And it just ignited my creativity, my brain. And so I brought him a track and kind of completed the verse chorus structure. And that was the first thing that got us into Illumination. And it was just, my idea was to go for very classic rock, high production value. Yes, Genesis, Tears for Fears, kind of really, really good high production value. And that was the first thing we did. And it just kicked off everything and just excited us both. And so, gosh, that's been 2018, 2019. It's been a while back now. So anyway, that's what got us. That was actually, our third or fourth record that we'd actually worked together on. And
wow.
And we do session work. In fact, I was just there yesterday. A client wanted to have Phil on there. And so we asked him if he would. He said, sure. So we'll do projects to where we'll trade solos. Like he'll take the first half and I'll take the second half. And we've done several of those, and those have been real exciting too. So, I pinch myself, he's my hero, one of my heroes. And that's the same thing with Eric Johnson and Dan Huff and, tons of other folks that I've gotten the chance to really get to work with, so, I'm blessed.
Yeah, and it's my understanding that you did quite a lot on that album besides just some singing and playing, right?
Yeah.
What else did you do on the Illumination album?
I played everything. I did all the drums, bass, guitar, keyboards, background vocals. I mean, obviously Phil sang and played guitar, and obviously there was that. But yeah, I was the band pretty much, and mixed it. Vinny Alabrindi mastered it. Just an incredible job of mastering. He's such a rock star. And it just sounds really good. So yeah, that was, and I've developed this reputation as the one-man band guy. I can play everything. So a lot of the work that I get is, I play everything, and most people can't tell that I didn't hire people. Now I do like getting budgets to hire players. Don't get me wrong. If I have a budget, I'll hire and go record. That's really the best of all worlds. But you hire the guy you can afford. So
there's this one cool song on there that's called "You Never Know." Now you've got I think the lead vocals on that, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that song.
So that song, I had some music idea, and Tom Douglas, Hall of Fame songwriter, that I'd worked with at Sony for years. He's got lots of clout and is incredible. So, and he himself is an incredible performer, piano player, singer. But we were co-writing at the time, and we got several that we've written together. One, "Circle with No End," is on my Hero Shuffle record. We wrote that one together, and this song was one of the one that we wrote together. And I remember him doing the demo, and it was so captivating. And that's a song that you either get or you don't. But it was on hold with Faith Hill for about two weeks, and it's kind of, yeah, as a songwriter, that's what we would do, is write songs and get people to cut them, in the industry. But that was one, I want to do that one, so that's how that came about.
Well, your vocals are amazing on that song. That's one that, when I think of that album, that's one of the ones that I think of right away.
Wow.
You never know.
Well, dude.
That's just a really cool, because it kind of, puts you in that situation. Listening to it, I kind of put myself on that bus. So that's cool.
Man, that's great that you said that, because amazingly, not many people resonate with that song. And you're one that does, and I do too. And some of my songwriter friends do as well. So thanks for mentioning that. That's the same way I feel,
Cool. Well, it's a great song to listen to. Now, this album came out, you said 2018 or 2019. I'm curious if the whole COVID mess slowed you guys down after.
Yeah, no, because the record had already come out and had its commercial life before COVID even came. And so, I think we have to duplicate some more because we're sold out, and it's the sales have kind of slowed down, but since it's digital, it also is being, downloaded and streamed and that kind of thing too. So that was done. It had a life. And surprisingly enough, I'm also the band leader for Matthew Ward, Second Chapter of Acts redo. Matthew's put together a band and some girl singers to kind of redo Second Chapter of Acts songs and his songs too. And so I got COVID 2020 at a concert in Cincinnati, a Matthew Ward concert, August 2020, when it was the first wave. And so that had, Illumination had already gone, and then got it there. So what happened with COVID was my pipeline got busy. When COVID hit and everybody was locked down, I was working a lot. Did Jeff Coffey's record. He's the bass player singer for Chicago for a brief period of time, and I had worked with him in a previous label. I did a couple of other projects, some sync placement projects with EMI and Sony Extreme, and so just always, I eat what I kill, so I got to always work, so.
I'm curious with you guys that are multi-talented. First of all, that blows me away for doing what you guys do, to be able to play all of those instruments and then play them well, and then play them to such a degree that people want to listen to what you do. That in itself is mind-blowing. But Rex, what were some of your early musical influences growing up as a kid?
Yeah, grew up in Central Texas, and so obviously Bob Wills was in there somewhere. So early, and then I started strumming. My grandmother got me a little plastic guitar when I was 6. And then I learned the solo from Galveston, Glenn Campbell. And then I think the next musical event was Bachman Turner Overdrive, which is why Randy Bachman was one I listed, because once I saw him again, I told him that when I was 10 years old, he signed a dollar bill at the hotel that we were staying at, that they were also staying at, that we had concerts to the show. My brother was a rock guy, 7 years older, so I got a chance to go to that show. But anyway, so Bachman Turner Overdrive, then I guess the real explosion, and I was playing guitar, learning these songs by ear. But the real explosion was in 1976. I was 12 years old, and I heard More Than a Feeling, Boston, on the radio.
Oh, wow.
And that sonically, musically, everything that song did just was the indelible impact on me. And Tom Schultz played everything on the record. Didn't play drums, but he did, all the guitars and bass, and kind of layered it the way. So I kind of was inspired by him as well. And then, learning everything. I was in a cover band in high school, and we also wrote originals, rock and roll. So just learning all that stuff. And then, guitar players around Texas, from Billy Gibbons to, Stevie Ray Vaughan. And I met Stevie Ray Vaughan in 1983. And Eric Johnson in 84, when he came out on the Guitar Player magazine cover and had that little plastic insert of Cliffs of Dover, and kind of, shook up the world. That record was a Grammy winner, million seller, platinum record. Wanted to meet him, and I ended up meeting him, and we ended up working together. He played on my record. on the Hero Shuffle record, did a couple of songs. And then since then he's done, a couple of things, and I'm just so grateful for that. And it's an honor to be considered, like for him to even consider doing that with me, and then end up doing it, put it on my record, and kind of be a part of what I did as an artist. It's incredible. So.
I'll bet. And I just pulled one of these off the shelf here behind me, if you can see that.
Yeah.
Some of the Boston influence, they just happen to be behind me. So, yeah cool. Rex, you're multi-talented. You can play many instruments well. And just from, I'm not a musician, but I love good music. I can tell, I've got an ear to hear good music versus not so good music, if you will.
Yeah.
But how do you play so many instruments so well? I mean, you growing up you started as a young child. Do you have to do it? Do you have to start as a young child to get proficient and then go on to another instrument? And how did you do that? Did you start at different instruments at the same time? Or how'd you do it?
I would say anymore, because of YouTube and how quick kids can learn, there is a certain propensity that I think kids have to, be able to naturally create something by ear, and kind of play something without really having ever, had a formal training. But that's not necessarily true. So you can start later, and YouTube is so easy to learn that you can learn how to do that. But I would say overall, as early as you can. Guitar was when I started. We had a piano in the house, so I, learned how to, write my own music. Actually, just kind of created and played and copied and tried to copy things, that I could learn. And then in fifth grade, I went ahead, was in band. And so I learned, snare drum and learned how to play drums. And that was really important. The basic music theory that, at least I can't read notes, but I can read rhythms, which is sad. But at least I can read rhythms. And then, then in high school, there was a stage band, and I played guitar, so it was a chance for me not to play snare drum and play guitar in a band type of thing. And of course, my band, we were playing every weekend, at these little places in Texas, and we were just a little 4-piece rock and roll band, so called Next Exit. So,
wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Rex, you're talking about one of your, I guess, idols, or not, probably idol is not the right word, but one of the folks that you admire, Phil Keaggy, for example.
Yeah.
Just off the top of your head, do you have a favorite Phil Keaggy album?
Yeah, I've got to say, for me, it's Love Broke Through. It was actually the first Keaggy album that I heard that I knew it was Phil. I had actually heard of Glass Heart before and was really intrigued with that freeform soloing style, kind of a power trio. But this record, and then that solo at the end of Well, There's Time is on that record. And so as a little 12-year-old kid or 11-year-old kid listening to that, I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. So when I got a chance to, even today, I still tell Phil those stories. I say, I was in NYF and I was 11 years old, and we put on Love Broke Through. And I said, that's what, then I remember, and then going to see you play live. That's the thing about Phil Keaggy, that if you don't go see him play live, you miss it. You miss the whole, even his records are great. I love them, but man, what he does live, it's like seeing Mozart. It really is. Yeah. It's a transcendent experience where he does the looping and the harmonies with himself and the acoustic guitar, and just brilliant. His stream of consciousness, creativity, and ability to ad lib is unparalleled. It's just amazing what he does. And so if you get a chance, get on YouTube. There's one Salvation Army band. It's on YouTube at Wheaton College. It's a live recording, and you'll be blown away. That one song will just tell you, oh, okay, this guy's top 10, easy, top 5, so.
Saw him one time, probably about 20 years ago, but he was doing, it was just himself and a guitar, and he had his equipment where I guess he leads his music. You'll help me out here.
Yeah.
But he was doing these shakers and into the microphone, and then all of a sudden he had an entire band behind him. I was amazed.
Yeah. And then you sing harmonies into doing the Beatles song, Here Comes the Sun, it's all right, and stacking the harmonies, just his ability to do that and create these incredible compositions. Yeah, it's a definitely transcendent experience.
I think you mentioned one of your favorites is Time. Is it the song Time?
Yeah.
I think that you played with him on Illumination as a recreation, or not recreation, but maybe an updating of that song. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was. We originally we were writing originals, and I would bring a musical idea, and or he would bring that particular new. So 1971 was when that was from, so it just triggered in my brain. Let's make this sound like Yes, We wrote, I think, about 5, and then we started to dance around the idea of redoing some classics. So we redid Let Everything Else Go. Some of the amazing classics that we did. Time was one of them, and so to do that, it's been done 3 or 4 times. So any of those, you better be brave and bold. And so that was the idea. It's like, I wanted to make sure the integrity and even the emotional and spiritual impact of hearing it. When I heard it, how it affected me. And my fear was, if it doesn't affect people that way, I don't want to do it. I want it to. And so it did. And of course, Time turned out to be, we have a video of us actually playing it live and trading off solos or whatever. And that was hard to get together with Time. And, anyway, so we did that. And that whole experience to me was like tripping down the stairs, but never quite wiping out, and then we got to the bottom of the stairs, and you can see us at the end of Time. After we get through, we look at each other and the note dies and we breathe like we made it. So that's cool.
That's a pretty amazing video, and I'll put the link to the Illumination album below the video. Mm-hmm. But you were speaking of the song "Let Everything Else Go," and for years I've said I've wanted. This sounds morbid to a lot of folks, but that's one of the songs that I want played at my funeral.
Yeah,
is "Let Everything Else Go." It's like a melodic, spiritual. It's talking about our faith in Christ, and we'll meet you on the other side, basically. So,
well, and there's a tenet of faith where obviously God calls you, and He doesn't make mistakes, and He doesn't go whoops. So, if you're a child of His, the promise is you're safe from the beginning, you're safe from the start, and those moments of faith where you reach those, if you have disease or people, whatever it may be, to be able to let go and to know I'm His. I don't feel it right now. I don't see it right now. I know there'll be seasons where I will, or the tide will come in or whatever, but that's faith. And that's a gift, just to relax, just to recline and sit and go, I'm yours. You're sovereign, and you chose me. So I'm letting go. And that, to me, that's what the beauty of that song is. It's like, at the end of the day, no matter what, if you trust, that's the majority of it. So.
Yeah, that's the gospel, right?
Yeah.
Rex, I want to talk about I want to dig deep into All I Want Is You album, your new album that's out now. But speak about some of your previous albums. Now, the ones I've been able to listen to in the last couple of days, I want to dig in deeper. But one is Hero Shuffle, and the other is Surfing in a Hurricane. Those are the kind of two that I've focused on.
Yeah.
But what about Hero Shuffle? Tell me about that.
Yeah, Hero Shuffle. My wife is experiencing a lot of medical issues, and she had a chronic pain condition for a long time. That was a very besetting time. And so that album was during that time. And so an interesting story, I was working at Sony in the studio, and one of the writers that I was working with was signed to Dan Huff's publishing. He had a joint venture publishing company. Anybody that don't know who Dan Huff is, he's an amazing world-class guitar player, singer, fronted the band Giant, but he's also a producer. He was Billboard's Producer of the Year 4 times in a row, Faith Hill, Rascal Flatts, Tim McGraw. I mean, the guy is he's brilliant, and he's one of my heroes. So he came in because the writer was having a birthday, and we were going to a birthday party afterwards. So Dan and I's job was to keep Mark in the studio until it was time to go to the party. And Dan comes in, and we had known each other, but I mean, I'm definitely, a fanboy. And Dan goes, "Hey, Mark tells me you're doing a record. Why don't you let me play on your record?" And, what do you say? No, of course. I was like, unbelievable. I'll get you tracks, So that same party, we went to the birthday party, and that was where I met Phil and Bernadette. That was the same place. And so in my brain, I was going, Dan Huff said he would. Why don't I ask Phil? Phil said he would. The only other person that I was really jonesing to play on my record was Eric Johnson. And I was in Nashville and he was in Austin, but I had a friend that knew him that gave me his manager's phone number. So I called his manager, and the next day, and preface that to where I had dinner with Eric Johnson about 5 years before, and he had heard one of my previous records and was intrigued by, that. And so we had kind of talked about working together, but that was water under the bridge. And the next day, his manager said, Joe Priesnitz, R.I.P., bless his soul, rest in peace, said, "Hey, Eric wants to play on your record. He can't write with you. He can't do that. Doesn't really have time right now, but he'll love to do an overdub."
Wow.
And it was just God's, gifting that all those things came together. Never was able to promote the record, but, it came out and got some reviews but I was never really able to properly tour that. And then Surfin' and Hurricane came out 2009. It was this progressive rock, King's X meets, Van Halen meets, I guess, Yes, idea that I had as a power trio. And so we put that together, and then the same musicians have been with me since that. And so those two were I'm very proud of the music. They went plywood. They didn't they're still listenable. So we'll see. Well,
it's interesting. You mentioned King's X for Surfin' in a Hurricane. That song on the title of the album is Surfing in a Hurricane, and the song is Surfing in a Hurricane or Surfing in a Hurricane.
Yeah.
When I first started to listen to that, I was thinking, oh my gosh, King's X influence right away. Yeah. But you've got your own spin on it. So that's an amazing, pretty powerful song. Pretty hardcore.
Thanks, man. And I wanted to be more story driven, and when I write these songs, the point behind the lyric is, you can find the hope at least the reality of an expression of, life's hard. Hold on. Ride that wave, to the, sometimes you find yourself riding in a surfboard in a hurricane, and all you can do is perform the best you can to ride that wave all the way to the beach, because if you don't, so.
Yeah, that's just a life experience that we have to go through, and we can either trust in God or trust in ourselves.
Yeah.
The Hero Shuffle, you mentioned that. Now, you made a documentary, right, of the making of it.
A little 8-minute video that's still on YouTube. You can see the story of and it kind of tells the story of having Phil in the studio, and then Eric. That was another interesting moment, that when I went down to do the overdubs at Eric's studio in Austin, which is my hometown. And so, I kind of, when that opportunity opened up, I was so blessed that he opened up the studio and just said, "Come down," and so I set up a camera, and that was back, that was 2005. And at the time, Joe's engineer, I asked Eric, and I said, "Could I set up a camera and just kind of film what we do?" He said, "Sure," and so his engineer was like looking at me and so Eric goes out into the room to dial in his amps, and Richard Mullins, his engineer, said, "Did you guys go to school together or something?" I said, "No." I said, we just kind of connected. And he said, "Man, this is pretty intriguing for me. It's hard." So Eric just kind of invited me into his process and got these guitar parts. And he said, "I've been working on this." That was the other thing. I was like going, wow, Eric Johnson's been working on my solo. That materialized again about 2017 or so, when he did the solo on Anthem on the new record. And so, yeah, I still pinch myself. I'm just like, man, how blessed. So.
And I'm glad you did that, because I love watching the making of, whether it's a movie, a famous movie, filming locations, how the actors, the producers, directors work together, and in the studio, how you guys as producers and musicians work together as well. I love watching those things. So I give you props for that. That's a cool 8-minute or so documentary.
Well,
I really enjoyed that.
Oh, good. Well, thanks, man. I was, I wanted to document it too, so people would believe me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And one of the things I've discovered about your music, I love, I love certainly gospel songs, sure, and songs that are direct about our faith.
Yeah, yeah.
But I also love kind of songs that are like parables.
Yeah.
Where if you're kind of like the C.S. Lewis Chronicles of Narnia, you can enjoy the movie. Sure. But if you want to search for something deeper, something about the Creator,
right,
it's something about Jesus, you can find that.
Right.
But it's kind of, I enjoy the parable songs as well, where if you're searching for it, if you've got an open heart, you can search for something deeper. I love those.
Yeah.
And I notice a lot of your songs are like that too.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah. Yeah. The Christian worldview is to me is just where I come from. And then unpacking experiences that sometimes don't harmonize with that. And then just trusting that, as it turns out, relationships and losing people to death or disease or even, anything that happens in your life that, and that's why relationship songs, to me, in the scriptures, basically Paul is saying that the mystery of marriage, that Paul says, no, but you realize I'm talking about Christ and the church.
Yeah.
And so we as people romanticize what we think we need in our heart. And indeed, relationships is usually the first place that's manifest. But pulling back, that actually our relationship to our Creator, to the Lord, that is the ultimate fulfillment. So this is only a picture of what truly fills our tank. And so, to process the fact that, this journey, we live forever, but we have a place of time, space, history, and this is the short one. Everybody in their lifetime, in 75 to 80 years, you're going to meet Jesus. He's coming back in 80 years or less in your lifetime. And so the reality is like, that would be my advice would be, and I think most people that journey this and that actually ponder that question is bow your knee now instead of later, because first of all, it's just the blessing of peace that you get and sanity and, the wearied, heavy laden, you lay that and you get trust and you get rest. And then the yoke is easy and light. And that's just direction. He just steers you, and the blessing that you get that abiding, you get that manifest presence, which is what he said, I will manifest myself to you. And so everything I do, songwriting, whatever it may be, making ice cream, it's all worship, all of it, so.
Yeah. Whatever you do, work at it as unto the Lord and not to men.
Yeah.
Great advice, Rex.
Yeah.
Rex, let's, if you want to dig into a little bit, I would love to, about All I Want Is You, your new album.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to go through some of your songs.
Okay.
Let's start with the first one, Dancing with the Pain.
Yeah.
When I've got my notes here. So when I first listened to that, I was thinking, hey, a police influence.
Yeah, definitely.
Talk about that a little bit. Talk about that song.
Yeah. Definitely a police. The chord progression is what hit me first on that. But then, Dancing with the Pain is so universal because, I lost my dad in 1998. And so, I think about, experiences where, all I can do is, because he's gone, is dance with his, memory. So Dancing with the Pain is what we ended up doing, but it's also redeemed as well because there is a forever future. But anybody that's lost through relationship or death or argument, or a separation, and you're not with those people, you miss them. And so really in your heart, you just, that's what that song's kind of about, dancing with the pain. Our scars are going to be there, and, we can either kiss them or we can, abuse them. And so sometimes dancing with the pain is a way that's cathartic. So.
Yeah, and that reminds me of your song "Surfin' in a Hurricane." Very similar.
Very
similar outlook.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and the next song, Rex, is "Never Go Away," and that's a great love song. And I kind of got the gist of a kind of like a John Mayer influence there. Can you speak about that song?
Yeah, good call. Yeah, that's exactly what that is. And it was just a basic, love song of, and I know some couples in my life that have been married, 40 years, 35 years, and they still run on the beach. And, that's just kind of, what that's about, is just that settledness and that maturity, quiet confidence of a wonderful relationship, which, gift of God. And, that's kind of what that song is about. Never go away, and of course, ultimately, one day you will, but briefly, only briefly. There's a reunion coming. So, yeah.
Amen. And I got to tell you this, Rex. A lot of the music that I listen to, my wife is not so fond of.
Really? Okay.
I like to listen to a lot of progressive music and so forth. But I got to tell you, man, she's liking this album.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, man, tell her check's in the mail.
All right, I will. I will.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm loving it. She's loving it. So the next song, I guess, is "All I Want Is You." Yeah. Talk about that a little bit.
That comes out of, for instance, like with my wife, she was ill for a while, and so there were some difficult times of, are we going to make it struggle wise, her health wise, she felt like I was, I don't know, questioning, it's so hard for you, putting up with this. And my response is, all I want is you. I don't want, if it's not with you, I don't want it, so that's what that is. It's just a love song, too. So.
Well, an amazing song. It's kind of haunting, and it sounds like your voice in this song sounds very similar to Gordon Sumner's voice.
Oh,
if you will.
Dude, that is such a man. It's such a, and that was told to me, interestingly enough, about 2015. We did a cover of "If I Ever Lose My Faith" live, and it really came off well. And there was an industry person that actually contacted me, and he said, "Dude, you do this thing pretty cool." He said, "You ought to do that kind of music." I've already kind of told that story before. And so that's what kind of started me on this new record was, okay, I love that kind of music, and getting the confidence as a vocalist is also another thing that's been, especially leading worship for 3 years, 50 times a year, and playing guitar. You gotta, 5 songs on Sunday, you gotta put, and so I'm grateful that I, was able to, last, endure, and pull out the chops and improve my delivery of everything, guitar, vocal, song, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just a joy.
Well, that's an incredible song. And so we'll go on to the next song. It's called Anthem, and the chorus is a killer. The Tears for Fears sound is pretty amazing with your own spin.
Dude,
talk about that song.
And again, astute observation. Good call, because that's exactly, and there's other things too, but that is a Leonard Cohen song. Leonard Cohen is the he wrote Hallelujah, incredible lyricist, jazz. His delivery is really cool. And so that song, Ring the Bells That Still Can Ring, Forget Your Perfect Offering, There Is a Crack in Everything, That's How the Light Gets In. That chorus just speaks about the fact that, look, there's a crack in everything, the human condition. And so when I put the music to that, it really was special. And we recorded it. I remember sending it to Eric Johnson, say, could you play the solo on this? We actually had met in Austin and had coffee, and I asked him if he would. He said, yeah, send it to me. And a couple of weeks later, he called me and he says, Rex, tell me about this song. Because he was digging the song, and I was like going, oh, thanks, man. Kind of told him the story. So, yeah, Anthem is a Leonard Cohen song. I did the music to it, and really happy, really pleased with that, how it turned out. And the video, too, so.
Yeah, and that the couple of those lyrics, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in.
Mm-hmm.
It just reminds me of the scripture passage about we're jars of clay,
Yeah.
and sometimes the broken jars with the light of Christ living in them are the shine out the brightest.
Yeah.
Because they've got the scars,
Right.
they've got the cracks.
Yeah,
and they've been healed.
And the human condition of sin, that we don't like that thought, but everything is tainted by it. And so there's a crack in everything. Creation is suffering because of that first trip. And but it's being redeemed as well. So it's like that's the light getting in. It shows the beauty of the light that comes and heals. So yeah,
pretty amazing song. So let's go on to the next one. That's what brings me to us.
Yeah.
Tell me about that song.
That is again a lyric that any relationship, in a love relationship, is the things that resonate, that bring people together, like scriptures say, talk about, think of these things, the excellent things, things that are worthy of praise. And that's the same thing we need to do about relationships, remember the good times, and then, throw a flag up and go, hey, we need to slow down and spend time together. So that's what that song's about.
Yeah, that's a good love song.
Right.
And the next one, I can never pronounce this word, unrequited love.
Unrequited love, yeah.
But I got, correct me if I'm wrong, I got kind of like a bread influence there a little bit.
Oh, wow, yeah, it is. And also kind of a 10cc. There's other people that have talked about some classic 70s. I have one friend of mine that is a PhD, works for the government, but he's a guitar player, singer, and he wrote a review of the record. Very astute review, and he was talking about how I borrow from all these sources, and you can hear them, but they're not. In other words, you don't identify exactly that that's the part of the song or whatever. And so he was enjoying it, and I hope other people do too. But I'm just stealing from my heroes. So that's unrequited love. It's just about that, the one that got away, you just at some point, you settle with, whatever that feeling may be. Or another viewpoint of unrequited love is that they either move on or they pass away, and you didn't get to finish the relationship, or you feel that too. And that's just human condition. Sometimes we do that, or we meet someone and they're taken away, and you don't ever get a chance to reconnect and create the beauty that you had in that initial meeting. And so that's just, lamenting that as well. And then valuing the relationships you do have. So.
Yeah. Excellent points. The next song, Rex, is Mercy. Tell me about that.
Mercy. So, mercy comes like pouring rain to wash away the stain of everything. Mercy bought by precious blood, the cleansing flood of mercy. Well, because of that word, cleansing, or bought with blood, I was tagged with lyric violation, with an adult, because I talk about blood and the atonement of Christ, and that's something that is violence too. So I've got this tag, and so that's what happened on, it just has to warn you, adult content or whatever. And I was curious, is like, no, you don't understand, that because of what Christ did, is the sacrifice, is because of that we have hope, and even any person who lays down their life for their brother, I don't know how you can argue with that being, it is violent, I guess, if you take into account method. But so anyway, that song is about mercy, and Mark Dalvitt played saxophone. The groove is very, I love Sting, I love Police, I love Level 42, I love any groove-oriented bass playing, singing. Of course, I'm a guitar player, but so that's weird. But so that's where that came from too. So,
And I saw that explicit warning, I think, on Amazon Music for that song, and I was listening to the song. I was trying to figure out why is it on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just explained it. That's bizarre.
Yeah, and you can fight it, but they won't back down. Their algorithms are gonna and that's going to be part of what people are going to deconstruct about Christianity, is that they can't handle the fact that it was so broken that it took the blood of our Savior. That doesn't register with them, doesn't vibe with them. So it's going to be the thing that'll be, always on our back. So
yeah. But it's a good case to explain, right?
Yeah.
When you get the opportunity.
Yeah.
Rex, what about Baby Run Away With Me? And listening to this, I was thinking, I could be way off here, but I was thinking a little bit of Earth, Wind, and Fire, maybe, and Steely Dan, and some other things.
Yeah, all the above. And yeah, it's just, sometimes you've got to shut down the kitchen and go to the beach. And that's just what that's about, and just rediscover that just making guacamole together, is as rewarding as anything.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, what about Maybe Tomorrow? And this is probably so far, and I'll change my mind tomorrow, but it's probably my favorite so far. Maybe Tomorrow. I got when it opened up, I was thinking Eagles. I was thinking a lot of George Harrison influence in this. Can you talk about that? Yeah.
Again, you got great insight and very astute observation, and and Boston, and and then the chord progression is more kind of, I don't know, borrowed from Billy Joel, but just all the great music, the great song stylers and arrangers that reach for great melodic changes and counterpoint, chord progressions. And that one was, again, when my wife was going through her struggle, and just wanting her to find relief, and for us just to be able just to sit without her being in pain, maybe today, maybe tomorrow. That's what that song was about. So.
I've got to ask, I've seen the video too with, you've got your friend Phil Keaggy in that as well, but I've got to ask, there's a short blip about two knees touching. Tell me about that. What's the deal between the knees with the faces drawn on the kneecap? Yeah,
and so anybody that does video editing, you can only do so much of your own footage. So I went and looked at some stock footage, and just love and expressions of love, and it was, I think, a male knee and a female knee, and they had the faces, and then they kiss, with the knees touching, and just that kind of cute expression that is, a alternative expression of, rather than something really serious, something just kind of cute. And so I found that on stock video. I said, all right, I'm using that somewhere, so it fit the song.
Yeah, it's a cool video.
Thanks.
And again, the song is spectacular.
Oh, thanks, man.
So the next song on the album is Time Stood Still. Tell me about that song.
Yeah, that was an interesting write. I had been contacted by a girl that I went to high school with, who had gone on to LA and been in some videos and been a model. And she was a cheerleader and had been connected with music, and just long story. But anyway, she said, I'm writing some songs, and could I hire you to do what you do the music or whatever? And I said, yeah, but she would do a verse and a chorus and say my song. I was like, well, you're not done. You've got to do next verse, next chorus. So I said, how about if we just co-write and maybe make a production library or whatever? So we did that. And this was one of the ones that she has a really cool stream of consciousness ability to say, like that first line, I trace the shadow of your face on the pillow in the morning, and there would be one or two lines like that, and then I would complete the rest of the lyric, because the imagery was like, that's a cool image. And so that's where that song came from. And to make it sound like Oasis, the band, Oasis, or actually a friend of mine thinks it sounds a lot like King's X2, Foo Fighters, but yeah, sonically, I like that one. I like the way that one came out. It's different, it's got a different vibe than a lot of the stuff. So.
Yeah, very impressive. The next song, Rex, is maybe the last one on this album. Maybe That's How God Makes the Rain. I think you shot a video for this one too, didn't you?
Yeah, did a video for this one. This was one where I was working at Sony, and again, Tom Douglas co-write, and I'd shared Psalm 55 about how God bottles our tears, and so I had worked with Tom that day, and so he was leaving, going home, and him and Troy Tomlinson, who are the head of Sony, would kind of like, sometimes they just kind of hang out and talk and visit or whatever. And so I was still in the studio shutting down, and Tom came back in. He said, "Hey, that song or that scripture that you shared says we're going to write a song, and it's going to be maybe that's how God makes the rain, and you and I are going to write this song." And when Tom does that, I'm like, that's like the Queen of Sheba saying, "I'm going to give you gold," and we're, so we did, and we tried different things, and he came up with this brilliant lyric, and then I came up with a couple of different music things, and he came up with a couple of music things. And then over time, it wasn't done. There was still a verse left to be written, and I couldn't, getting a hold of Tom, I never really could do. And so I asked if another writer that was a Sony writer, Chapin Hartford, she's also a Hall of Fame songwriter, if she could join us in the songwriting, finish it, because it was hard to schedule anything with Tom. And he said, sure. And so she came in and just delivered this, this verse, every wave of sorrow's ocean breaks on promised shores. Just lyric that takes a long time to crystallize and just not fill in the blanks with the rhyme. And that was that song. And so I was really proud of that song, the chord progression, the name. And then Tom came up with that first verse and chorus that it's just amazing how he can do that. So, and that's funny, that video, there was a friend of mine that was shooting the video, and he had a Red movie camera, which is a very expensive movie camera. And I had an idea of shooting, if you've noticed some videos, if you're obviously playing to a track, so you're playing along, but if you take the music and double the tempo and shoot it at a high frame rate, a lot of frames, then what you do is you can slow it half speed and it's at the right tempo, but everything looks like it's in slow motion.
Oh, wow.
And that's the idea of that one, is why I wanted to be able to pull that off too. So I created that rain stage at my church. I went and bought some soaker hoses and all that stuff is just, and we shot that. And so that was kind of fun. So.
Yeah, and watching that video, that's one of the things I was thinking about. Well, is there like someone holding a water hose above Rex, or how is that taking place?
Yeah,
But the verse in that, and I've got that copied and pasted in front of me. It says, "Dare to walk on troubled waters, let them rage and let them roar, because every wave of sorrow's ocean breaks on promise shores." Now, Rex, what that reminds me of is an old hymn.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Sure.
It's just the brilliant writing. The lyric there is just it's stunning. It's so opposite of what we hear. And I'll be kind, but a lot of the I guess what's titled Christian music out there today, I don't really listen to, because there's nothing deep here. But in this lyric, there's extreme. It's not shallow. In other words,
mm-hmm.
It's pretty epic, I think.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that, Tony. That's what I go for too. And I think that any musician, any songwriter that stays in this and pursues it will ultimately learn about, that's how you craft a lyric. That you don't settle. You keep improving, and you don't finish a song just to finish a song. You finish a song when it's good, and you throw away 9 out of 10 of them because most of them aren't really as good as they need to be. So you're right. That's what to go for. And hymns, gosh, what school of songwriting is it better than that? I mean, lyrically, and not just lyrically, but theological depth that just transcends anything that's being written. Well, a lot of things. There's some good writers. I've got some good friends writing some amazing songs, but okay, so you're not a Christian and you're not into theological depth. just the beauty of the poetry and the crafting and the melody. You know, I mean, you're right. Hymns are great teachers.
Yeah. But I appreciate you've got that in there. It kind of sums up that album perfectly, I think, with that verse.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah.
But, Rex, if someone wants to order this album, I strongly encourage you to purchase it. Or any of your past albums, how would they do that?
The best way is to go to my website, which is rexmusic.us. Real short, rexmusic.us. And that's my website. It'll land on a page that's got all my music that you can buy right there in front of you. Go ahead and check out the bio and the stories. Coming up, there's going to be like my live performances that I did. That was really the most exciting thing that's happened recently is I was able to do a show March 5th where we did like 7 songs open up for a band, and then we recorded the video and then got the multi-track too, and it came out really good. We performed really well. It's like 2 or 3 rehearsals together, and that's on YouTube. So having said that, rexmusic.us, go there. You can find everything, even my YouTube channel, please support your artists. Musicians don't make any money very little money on streaming or any of those ways. Usually the best way is to buy directly from their website. And so if you would do that, I don't mind if you go to Amazon or iTunes, that's fine too. Go to Spotify and put me on lists. That'd be great. That's part of the game. That's part of the visibility game. But yeah, rexmusic.us will get you everything you need to know.
And Rex, you've also got it's called Rex Music TV on YouTube. Can you talk to me about that a little bit? That's interesting because some of your new songs on your album, you're kind of giving an intro or you're explaining what they're about.
Yeah.
Speak to that a little bit.
So I've done, I think, 6 episodes so far, and that's generally what it's about. I would just, let you know what's going on. And this is when the record was being, finished. And then, CD Baby did the printing and then there were some delays. And so I was just letting people know the journey. So that's what those Rex Music TVs would be to set up and introduce the, story about what's going on, how to get a hold of me, and then the song, and then play the video. And I was going to announce the videos, and I'm going to keep doing that. But what I discovered was, unless you buy ads, like on YouTube or Facebook, your visibility will be very, very small. And so a friend of mine who promoted that concert, the Roy band, that he has a cover band that he does, so he buys ads. His one ad got 3 times more visibility than every one of my Rex Music TVs, all 6 of them put together. And so I just kind of need to slow down and kind of go, am I being smart about this? So just trying to figure that out. It's a new world, new ecosystem. So
yeah. And you were talking about, let's talk about creatives. And I don't want to take up too much of your time. You're a busy man, but you're fine. But to those frustrated creatives out there, I've since I've had this channel and the artists I've had on, I encourage people to purchase their stuff because that's how they make a living for the most part.
Right. And
it's a very slim percentage of musicians out there that are extremely wealthy or wealthy at all.
Yeah.
It's most musicians are working a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
And they're doing this out of their spare time, but it's their love, their passion. Right. So, Rex, what about those frustrated creatives out there who are struggling? They're not getting much traction.
Yeah.
And they're about ready to give up what they love.
Yeah.
How would you speak to them?
Yeah. Let you know you're not alone. And you're right about, all the money went away so that there's really the old ecosystem of how it works. You just have to chunk it. And I would say for those of you like me who are writing and are trying to create the best art you can, let go of the, even the social media. What you have to find is a place for you to sing your song and play your song live on a regular basis. Connect with people who listen to what you sing. Maybe you do a coffee house. Maybe you have a house concert. Maybe you lead worship at your church. Maybe you sing busking on the corner. Find your joy there, delivering the very best of your craft that you can. Make that where it counts, because what will happen is the more you do that, and just don't chase the golden ring, because it'll never happen. And even if you do get 1 million listeners on Spotify, but you don't have any true fans, you may be on these playlists, but nobody really, do they really follow you? Do they really know your story? And so start with the people that are right around you, the people that will come to your show, and get a mailing list and kind of market to those people already who have said, I'll give you my email. I trust you. That's gold. Go, give them the new stuff, and then try to, expand that, and let the love of the craft be what drives you, and then be humble, try to learn, sit with other songwriters that have had reasonable or some kind of success or that are good, and let them drive. Don't force your ideal on them. Let them take, just feed them melodies and lyrics or whatever, and let them do stuff. And then what you'll receive on the other end is like, oh, that's how somebody who's done this crafts a song, and you learn how to craft a song better. And I've done that. I was very fortunate because I hung around amazing songwriters that were, Hall of Fame songwriters, all of the country guys, the Craig Wiseman, the Harlan Howards, the Jamie O'Hara's, the Tom Douglas's, the Brooks and Dunns, all those guys that know how to write really great songs are the songwriters that got them, really great songs. And I just let them drive and would learn how to write with them, and that was the gold, is just learn how to craft songs. And you can do that buying a Sting record, or buying a Carole King record, or buying a Billy Joel record, learn to craft like that.
Yeah, and the advice you're giving, Rex, I think can be translated over to other loves. Like maybe you're a painter, or maybe you're a woodworker, or maybe you're just, you get your enjoyment and your pleasure out of adding on your house, or building decks, or working with your hands, whatever it may be. That's kind of a universal wisdom that you gave there, I think.
Yeah, and we can get caught up really quickly in demanding to be heard, demanding to be understood. And the more you get on social media, the more you're trained to be a narcissist. And you do have to be a self-promoter. That is true. But the more you can be pure about, what am I trying to do? Why am I trying to do this? And make that as pure as it can be. The other will take care of itself. That's where, you can enjoy the craft. So the journey, the joys in the journey.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So what's on Rex Paul's agenda? Can you tell us what you're working on? What should we look forward to, Rex?
Yeah. I'm continuing to write really, I think, some of the best music I've written in along the lines of this previous record, All I Want Is You. So I've got a couple in the can that I'm going to release. We're going to do another show probably the 1st of May, my band, and we're going to probably play a lot of the new music. There's going to be more live performances, but not just live performances, but videos, like the videos I've released on my live performance, the 5 songs, like really great artifacts of what we do. There's, I was just kind of chatting with Phil Keaggy today. I'd love to do some more stuff with him. I'd love to, kind of create more of that music that we did together. He and I did the Randy Stonehill, the first one single on that record is Lazarus Heart. And we made it sound a lot like Illumination. And it just came out really, really good too. So we got a chance to work together on that. There's a record company that is a possibility of forming in the next couple of months that I might be a part of. We'll see. It's a whole new ecosystem. It's a search engine. It's a YouTube. It's a Facebook. all of those things. It's called find.com. And connected with that's going to be multimedia companies or whatever. And so this has been an ongoing thing that I'm hoping comes together, because not only will I produce and go find artists and have a partner that will be doing production music, but my artistry will be available there too. So, just a proliferation of what I've already done. So look for that. But rexmusic.us, I'm going to be announcing, a lot of that, and sign up for my mailing list if you would. So when you go rexmusic.us, the first thing you'll see is sign up for the mailing list. Do that, and you'll get a free download if you do that, and a lot more free coming, a lot more new information. I've got 3 records that are done that haven't been released.
Wow.
All that music is going to be coming, and it's going to be released too. I just got to find the best way to do that. So.
Well, Rex Paul, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. And I just want to thank you for giving me some great new music to listen to. And I'm talking about great new music, by the way. It's not just music. It's tremendous music. And I'm so appreciative that I've found your stuff, your music and your talent. So I just want to thank you so much, man, for coming on the program. And I'm going to ask you, if you'd stick around for a couple of minutes after.
Sure.
But Rex Paul, thank you so much. And we'll put the links below the video of all of Rex's stuff. I just encourage you to check it out, buy his albums, and get on his mailing list. But Rex, thank you so much for joining us.
Tony, thanks you for having me. Appreciate you.
And until next time, thank you.